What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another weekly video. Today I'll be talking about depreciation, leverage, and more importantly the reason why we're all here, and that's how I was able to afford this car that was once originally over $65,000 brand new, and I bought it with not just cash but with only my stimulus check. But if you can do me a huge favor, hit that like and subscribe button below. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year, and if you can be a part of it, I would really appreciate it. Alright, before we get into the financial details, let me introduce you to my new to me BMW E70 X5. Now this one is the sport model, which is the highest level trim that you can get with this generation with the oversized 20-inch wheels. Now I'm pretty excited about buying this car because I've always wanted an X5, and I told myself if I ever got an SUV that I would get this generation with this exact color combination, which is black exterior and with a saddle interior. So far, I love everything about this SUV, minus the gas mileage, but nonetheless, it has the flat 6 N55 motor with a single twin-scroll turbo, and it's fully loaded with a sport, comfort, and tech package, I believe. Also, it has the third row seating and the air suspension in the back. Now, what is missing is the tow package, so I need to go buy that and install it myself because I do a handful of biking, as you can see. I also have my buddy Eric, who's a master tech over at BMW of Arlington, to look over my car, and luckily everything checked out, minus a few BMW things that usually needs to be replaced around these miles, like some bushings and gaskets, but nothing too terrible. But overall, the body is clean, interior is clean, motor post strong, so that's all that really matters. Now this thing definitely needs a good detail. As you can see, the headlights are a little fogged out and hazed out. But luckily, my buddy Jeff owns a detail business and he'll make this thing look brand new. So I'm not too worried about that at all. But we're gonna have to wait till the weather clears up here in Dallas because it hasn't been looking so hot. But if you're local to the DFW area and need your car detailed, ceramic coated, making it look brand new, I definitely recommend him. So I have his information in the description below. And I do plan on doing a vlog of him actually detailing my car for some behind the scenes, so be a lookout for that. And speaking about the terrible weather, it is actually starting to rain, so let's go right back inside so we can go over all the financial details about this car. Alright, so see you in a second. Alright, we're back in the office to get down to the details and talk about depreciation, leverage, and why we're all here, about how I bought this car for $400. So as we all know, cars are one of the highest depreciation assets we'll ever own, and for the majority of the people, it'll stay this way. Unless you do what I do and buy older cars. Now, what I do isn't for everyone, since you have to do a lot of research on what you're trying to buy and know how to negotiate. And the most important thing is being okay with not having the newest and greatest toy. But here's a fun fact. Whatever model car you're trying to buy, unless it's a new generation that just came out, it will probably be identical to the year before to even a few years before that. You see, most car manufacturers usually keep the same design for 4 to 6 years, and they do what they call a facelift somewhere along the way, which simply are just small updates like bumpers, lights, wheels, and maybe the entertainment system. But everything else like the motor and interior will most likely stay exactly the same. So before you buy that brand new car, make sure it's not similar to the year before, and if it is, well, then you're just spending for a new car just to get a new car, when you can easily buy a certified pre-owned model that's a year old with maybe a few thousand miles on it, and you could have saved a few thousands of dollars. Now, if that's not your cup of tea to buy something used, and you'd rather buy a car brand new to have, the peace of mind and the less stress in your life, that's totally okay. However, if you like saving money and spending on other places to make more money, then keep watching, because now we're going to be talking about depreciation. Just like I said earlier, you can buy a certified pre-owned car that's like a year old or even the current year because someone decided to return it back to the dealership just because they didn't like the car. You can now take advantage of those cost savings and get a slightly used car but still have the same warranties as you would if you bought it brand new. And this is the route that I recommend to almost anyone that asks me for any car buying advice. Now, there is an exception though. If you're able to get a good deal on a new car that's below the sticker price at 0% interest, that may be a better deal since the amount of interest that you pay on a used car may be more in the end opposed to the new car. So ultimately, it all boils down to the financing and how long you choose on keeping the vehicle to determine which one is a better deal. But whether you buy a brand new car at 0% financing to a slightly used car that's a few $1,000s off, in the end, you're guaranteed to lose money in both methods by selling it for a lot less than you initially bought it for, which is completely fine if you got good use out of it and you felt like it was worth every dollar spent. As for myself, I buy all my cars cash, and I've only financed one car in my life, and that was my Evo back in 2013. Luckily, when I sold it a few years later, I broke even on it because it was one of the few cars on the market at the time that held its value. Now, I am not opposed to financing, and I will finance any future cars if need be, if I need to leverage my money elsewhere. But right now, I switch cars every year or two, and it only makes sense for me to buy them in cash so I can have the freedom to sell them when I want, along with having the peace of mind knowing that I don't have a loan to pay off, then to wait to receive the title just to sell a car. Now, every car goes through what I call waves of depreciation, where the price dips a little bit, stays static for a while, then dips again. But to simplify things, when you're in a market for a car, you need to research how long that generation's been out for, when the new generation will be released, and the average miles it has at that time. Also, if there's any known major issues with that generation, and after figuring all that out, then check the Carfax of each vehicle. This will determine if the vehicle is a good buy to begin with and how long you have to keep the vehicle before you should get rid of it before it goes through the next wave of depreciation. Which, if you know me personally, is why I go through so many vehicles, and I've probably owned over 15 cars and 6 motorcycles at this point. And I also have a friend that's well past 50 cars at this point, and I think he's like just turned 30 years old. However, there are exceptions to depreciation, which are collector cars, but I call them hype cars, which either depreciates extremely slow, holds its value, or continue to rise, which again, my Evo is an example of that. Now with the X5 I just bought, brand new was MSRP around $65,000. And if you add tax, title, registration, and all the maintenance and repairs up to the point of me owning this car, I'll make the bet that it has about $80,000 invested into it at this point, which makes me happy to know that I got 80% off the initial MSRP, which comes out to be $13,000. And again, that's including tax, title, registration on my part. And in return, I get a clean, maintained luxury car that's under 100,000 miles. So I think that's a pretty good deal. Now, if you're into cars, then you may say that I could have gotten a better deal, which I agree, and I know I would have if I really just pushed the negotiations. But with the words of my old boss Joe, it doesn't matter how much you paid. As long as you thought it was a good deal, then it's the best deal for you. And in my eyes, I thought it was a fair deal given the circumstances. And plus, I know that this auto industry has been impacted like the real estate market. So good deals are hard to come by these days. And I apologize if you hear any snoring. My dog is sleeping on my bed right now. But let's get back to this video. So you may be confused since I said I paid $13,000 for this car, but the title of my video said that I bought this car with my stimulus check, which is true and where leverage comes into play. So let's break down the numbers. First, I have a balance of $13,000 since that's how much I paid for the car. I then leveraged the $1,400 stimulus check towards that balance, and I then leveraged the money that I got from selling my last BMW, which was $11,200. And now you're probably going, aha, gotcha, clickbait. But let me finish. This now makes my balance $400, which means I paid out of pocket $400, making this car and the title of this video the $400 car. Now you may still be confused because of the money I used for my last car and why I didn't count that as money out of my pocket. But what I consider out of pocket expenses is when I use money from my main source of income, which is currently from real estate, and any money I use from that, such as food, bills, clothes, and that $400 extra to cover the remaining balance of the car, I then consider that out of pocket expenses. But the money from my last car, I initially bought with straight profits from flipping cars over the years, making my last car a free car to drive, which honestly would have been a way better title for this video, but unfortunately, instead of a free X5, it's a $400 X5. Now, what I just said might be a far stretch for some people and say, since I still put the work to make those profits, and by me using that money, it should still be considered out of pocket. But in my eyes, since I got my initial investment back years ago, I'm simply using pure profits to turn into more profits and not using money earned from a main source of income. However, I don't include basic maintenance, insurance, and gas to my numbers since those are basic things that every car needs regardless. but I do add any major repairs or mods done on the car to my initial numbers. So as of right now, that makes this car the $400 BMW X5, which is the point of this entire video. By starting an initial out-of-pocket investment, whether it's $5,000, $10,000, or your $1,400 stimulus, and finding those wave of depreciation and using that as leverage on whatever you buy, where then you constantly do this method over and over, and you'll eventually start making a profit from each thing, and eventually you get all your initial investment back and start buying bigger and better things if you choose to go that route. Or use those profits to fuel other investments to make more money in other ways and just keep buying the same car over and over, since you'll know that market extremely well. And who knows, you may realize you have a knack for flipping cars and specialize in a certain brand and just make a career out of it. I know a lot of people that do that, and I know some people that sell strictly Hondas because it's their bread and butter. So a quick recap of this video. I did indeed use my stimulus check of $1,400 to buy this car, in addition of my own money of $400, and using the profits I made on selling my last car, which again, in my eyes, makes this car a $400 car to me, since the stimulus check was given to me and not earned from my main source of income, and the money from my last car was profits from my previous flips. Now again, if you think my logic is a far stretch, then I'm sorry to disappoint and wasting your time. But if you think this information was helpful and helps you see cars in a whole new light, then I'm glad to help. But nonetheless, that wraps up this week's video. And if you are interested, I am thinking about adding one more video per week. It'll probably be a vlog style of something random, interesting that I did during that week. So that'll make me having 2 uploads a week. So it would be my usual Sundays and most likely Wednesday or Thursday. So we'll see. I'm still trying to figure out the direction I want to go with this channel, so bear with me through all these growing pains. Now, if you think that's a good idea to add an extra video, then make sure you let me know in the comments below and hit that like button also, as well as subscribing if you've done so already, because again, I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year, so it'd be really awesome if you can be a part of it. But on that note, I'll bother you next week.